Hey guys, Scott with Flippin Customized, and today I got a quick little tech tip how-to video on the hydraulic front brake replacement on the Honda Rubicon Foreman. Pretty much any hydraulic front brake master cylinder replacement that you're gonna do, it would all work the same way. And what I've done is, just so you know, this is the factory one, and what it's done is it's lost its ability. You have to like pump the brakes a few times to get it to hold, and that's fine. It's not a big deal. And you can rebuild these things. They are rebuildable, and I will save it. But the aftermarket stuff, honestly, not that it's the greatest, but it's so cheap today, and it takes so much of the work out of it, complete with electric switch. This was like 30 bucks, I think. So, boom. We're gonna go ahead and swap this out one for one, and then I'm gonna go ahead and bleed the brakes. And to do that and to get started, what we're gonna do is to go ahead and jack this up, pop the front wheels off, and I'll get to the bleeders and show you guys where they're at. And there's a couple different ways you can do this as far as bleeding the brakes go. But first things first, we're gonna jack it up, pop the wheels off. We're gonna go ahead and electrically disconnect our switch here underneath. We're gonna disconnect our line. And again, we're gonna put some towel or something here to catch that. That brake fluid is nasty. And then undo these two bolts here. Off it comes, put the new one on. Then we get into the bleeding procedure. So let me get these wheels off.
Welcome to my party, we're just getting started. A life is a dream or a nightmare scarring. Hand me a drink cause I think I'm going all in. Get me a shrink who can catch me when I'm falling. Cover up my scars, flip the handlebars. Crashing in my car, wake up in a bar. I'll be a superstar, just on my avatar. This world is so bizarre, empty out.
All right, we got the wheels off, jacked up. I don't even know, I was trying to do the fast forward time lapse, but I just wanted to show you back here. You know, it's mud, but right there is the bleed screw. You can see I took the cap off of there as well. So that's what we're gonna be doing. We'll be bleeding out that screw. It's a bleed screw, so it's a 10 millimeter. But once we get the top swapped out, I'll show you what I'm talking about down there. And as far as the top goes, we're gonna go ahead and crack this line loose and let the fluid leak out of this into a little drip pan. And then pull off the two electrical connectors right there. There's two. Unbolt the back, take this off, put our new one on, connect it up, fill it with some .3 fluid, or .4 I believe it'll take, and start bleeding it out. The actual brake line itself, it's 12 millimeter. So when you go ahead and crack that loose, get yourself a 12 millimeter wrench, and the two clamping bolts that hold the backside on are 8 millimeter. So that's that, and there will be two crush washers, one on each side of the line with your bolt. Right here, I'll show you. It's kind of dripping out right now, which is exactly what we expected it to do, so we're catching that. And right there, you see the two crush washers on it? The new one comes with a new mounting bolt and crush washers, so we're putting that on there. So while that's dripping, we'll go ahead and loosen this up. Maybe. And go ahead and get this taken off. Hold this. There we go. And once that's off, I'm gonna go ahead and all this. Well, you know, I said I put that drip pan there so it would not make a mess. Well, so much for that, because I was trying to balance that. My son walked in, you could hear him in the background. I was trying to give him the old shh, I'm doing something. So that didn't work too well. Anyway, again, these are the two electrical connectors that are left. It's an either other, doesn't matter. It's a make or break switch. I am going to save this in case we want to rebuild it. But in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and put this new master cylinder. You can get these pretty much anywhere. It's eBay, Amazon. Type it in what you got. This is an 01 Rubicon 500. This particular master probably fits several of their models. So it's probably fairly universal, and it's, again, aftermarket. So take that for what it's worth when I say it's aftermarket. Sometimes you get lucky, it's good stuff. Sometimes not so much. So I guess we'll find out how this one is when we get it mounted up. So I'm just getting the bolt started. Then we're gonna get the electrical connectors on, the line on, and you want to torque that line down pretty good because it sees a lot of pressure. Honestly, it sees a lot of pressure. So I don't know if you guys have seen, but I have a chicken walking around the shop that we saved because all of her sisters were well, essentially massacred by something that we had in common. So I felt so bad that she hangs out in the shop now, at least for the winter, until we could rebuild the pen and get her some companions. Start a new one. Not that you guys watch this video for that, but anyway, just in case the chicken shows up, you'll know why. I am gonna put my electrical connectors back on. I can see. Flashlight.
We build a lot of frames, but we're really gonna do what we can to make this special, not only for extensive, but for Earl himself. All the years of him running over everybody in the NFL, we're gonna build a frame that's strong.
There's one. There's two. I'm gonna go ahead and remove our mounting bolt for the line. Again, crush washer on either side. See? And actually, they use a rubber seal in there, so it is a little bit different style than the factory. I'm sure it was cheaper, to be honest with you, but it's all right. We'll give it a shot. And the next step, we're gonna fill our reservoir with some .3 or 4 brake fluid. What does this one actually say on that? Same thing, .3 or 4. Good and tight. Probably a Torx spec on it. I don't have it. Go ahead, these are 2 Phillips screws. Pop this off. We're gonna fill this and lightly put the cap back on before we get into bleeding. All right, I went ahead and took the cap off. I'm gonna get some fluid put into this. And then we'll talk brake bleeding, because there's several different methods you could use here. I actually went a little bit too full, so I am going to set the cap back on, but it will probably lose a little. Therefore, there we go. I just have it on there, just setting on there, so it's not making a mess, okay? So, what we're going to be doing is pumping this up like so. I see this lever shorter too, I'm not a fan of that. And cracking the bleed screw. This is a process to doing this. And what I mean by that is, you can do what they call a gravity bleed. So that is when you just fill the reservoir, you go down here to the bleed screw, which is a 10 millimeter, and you crack it loose, and you just let gravity take its course. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. It just will drip out over time. Some systems will not do this. Some will, some will not. Most people don't have time for that. So they have a power bleeding setup, which is basically a vacuum pump that you'll crack open your bleed screw. You connect the vacuum pump to it. I actually have one, I can show you. And you siphon off from the vacuum pump, and it pulls the fluid through. And then the third method is basically an old school. If you had 2 people here, you can do it on your own because it's this close. Is what you do is you pump 3 times, 2, 3, 4, whatever. You pump it several times, and then you hold it. You come down here to your bleed screw and you crack it open. And then you repeat that process until you get it bled. So it's just a matter of pump, 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 and then crack over and over and over until it finally starts pumping some fluid through. It's gonna take a while because this reservoir, the master cylinder, was completely dry before we went ahead and changed it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab my siphon pump so I can show you guys what that's. All right, I just wanted to show you what I'm talking about with a siphon pump setup. Basically what it is, it's just that. It's a vacuum pump. And then you connect, in line with that, so you want to be sucking, right? There's different ways to do this, different connections, different fittings. And it sucks the fluid and dumps it into here in one step. So with the bleed screw open, you're going ahead and doing this. So you're sucking that fluid down and you're not getting air back in the system, and you can do it by yourself, which is cool. So let me go ahead and get this set up and I'll show you how this thing works. All right, a good one to show you actually is I have the pump all set up, but I went to hook the pump up and siphon through the bleeder, which this is the bleeder screw, with it connected back into the wheel cylinder, so down low on the four-wheeler. And it's rusted, so the little pilot holes in the bottom and in the top are all clogged up. So I'm gonna go ahead and use a couple, like a paper clip you could use or a tip cleaner, and open those up so we can use that siphon pump. So this wouldn't bleed out no matter what we tried. So I'm gonna go ahead and get this opened up and then we'll go back to the bleeding so I can show you. Actually, it wasn't that bad. I went ahead and used a couple of carburetor tip cleaner to get right into here and then through here, and then used a little compressed air to clean it out. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this back in so I can show you. All right, as mentioned before, there's like 3 different methods you could do, and possibly even more. And the first one is just gravity. So now that the bleed screw back here, let me get this thing. Where did I put my flashlight? Sorry, guys. That bleed screw is now back in, and I got my wrench hanging on it right here. I'm gonna open it up, and gravity bleeding is just that. You loosen this up. Let me move this, and as you can see, the fluid's coming out. That's gravity bleeding. It doesn't always work that way. So if you have the time and not another partner to help you out, that's a way you can do it, and it does work. But you want to finish it off with a pressure bleed as well, not just the gravity bleed. So that's gravity bleeding, okay? Now I'm gonna go ahead and do a power bleed. I got my buddy Caleb here helping me out. And with this power bleed system, it's literally just manual. So he's gonna pump that until I say hold. So when he's pumping it, go ahead and pump it. He's just literally pumping it, pump, pump, pump. And then I say hold, he's gonna hold it all the way in and not let it go. While I come down here to the bleed screw, I'm gonna crack this bleed screw loose, and fluid's gonna come out, which it is right now. And then, which you could put a little piece of tubing on it, so that would actually lessen the mess. But if you're not worried about it, like I'm not a big deal. So then you just keep repeating that until you get all the air out of the system. Go ahead and pump it all the way, and then hold it. Same thing. I'm gonna open that up. And you just keep repeating that. Go ahead and pump it. But every couple cycles that you do this, you're gonna pull that cap off and make sure your fluid level is full. Hold it. And because you do not want to run out of fluid at the top, because then you just reintroduced air into the system. Go ahead and pump it. And if you've reintroduced air into the system, then you're starting all over. So game over. And you're doing this all over again. So there's another method. So let me go ahead and top this off, and then I'll show you the vacuum. Here's the vacuum pump that's all set up. And this pump can do many different things. You can actuate actuators with it. It's just a vacuum pump, so it's literally just that. But it'll do brakes as well, and it tells you how to hook it up in the manual there. So this piece right here is gonna go on our bleed screw down there. He won't even have to pump it at this point. I'm gonna crack that loose after I put this on, and then I go ahead and just pump away. And it's doing the same thing. It's pulling the fluid through the system. So I'm gonna go ahead and put this on, and let's see if it even works, because I haven't used this in quite some time. So that is open. I can hear it. Yeah, it's pulling. So as you're doing this, of course it's gonna take forever to pull it through my line. It fills this up. And then you've done the same thing. You pulled fluid from that reservoir, you forced it through the system, and you've taken air out of the system. So whatever method you do, even if you just do a gravity bleed, you still want to do some sort of power bleed after. And at the very least, get your buddy out here, have him pump it up and hold it and crack it loose. Then you're gonna go to the other side and do the same thing, back and forth a couple of times until you get all the air out of the system. So now that we've worked this one a little bit, I'm gonna go ahead and bleed the other side out, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Guys, that is it in a nutshell. We went ahead and bled this brake system out. We got the master cylinder replaced. Basically, it's as simple as that. We got a couple electrical connectors. We got a brake hose. We're checking for leaks after. We're making sure we don't have any leaks. So now that the system has good pressure in it, we can go ahead and make sure we don't have any leaks or any binding or any problems like that. Make sure your reservoir is full. It does have a sight glass. It is a reservoir master cylinder, so they call it different ways. Again, you can bleed it gravity. You can bleed it with a buddy, which is actually I like that method the best. Or you can use the vacuum method if you're by yourself. I had my son Caleb out here. He helped me out. We bled these out back and forth a few times. There's actually some nasty old fluid in there. This thing's got some miles on it. So the only other thing I will say is you want to make sure with, like on these anyway, is they're drum brakes. So that's kind of a different video. But if your brakes are way out of adjustment, you're going to want to adjust your brakes first to get them close. So otherwise your wheel cylinder is traveling a long ways to open to actuate the brakes themselves. And if you're bleeding it, you're kind of causing a lot more work for yourself than you need. So I just wanted to mention that. So with that being said, that's it in a nutshell. We replaced the master cylinder in this 01 Honda Rubicon Foreman 500, and essentially any front brake master cylinder on these wheelers is done the same way. This was just a quick tech tip how-to video to kind of go over a brief overview on replacing like a master cylinder fluid reservoir and then bleeding your brakes out and using those different methods. So if you like the video, please hit subscribe. Follow along. We got cool builds. We got a lot of stuff going on in the shop. We throw some of these in here as well. These quick how-to videos. I do a lot of ATV flips, so I'm always repairing these things, and I never always think to do the repairs. So if this is something you guys want to see, drop a comment, and as it comes in, I'll be able to do that. So thanks again. Thanks for watching. Flippin Customized. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Flippin Customized, and today we've got a little rough country suspension lift we're installing on a 2021 Nissan Frontier. We're going with a nice little 2.5-inch front and back. Now they do offer a 2.5-inch just front if you just want to level that front out and not keep that kind of factory rate going if you are going to use the truck and you don't want it to look like that going down the road. So we're doing a 2.5-inch all the way around with some upgraded cam bolts as well, so you can get better alignment specifications out of this thing. So let me show you what we're working with, and we'll get started.